Good morning. I will be talking to you today about the process you go through for prepping and completing hand loading rifle cartridges. So by the end of this video today, you should have a pretty decent idea on how to set up for it, prep the cases, measure your powder, and pack your loads. So to start off, you find all the proper cases for the size cartridge you're trying to load, whether it's 30-06, 270, or 7mm. You pick your appropriate cartridges for that round. Then you go look in your specific load data book, and it will tell you what size shell holders you need, and then you have to find the appropriate dies for resizing, renecking, and depriming the case, and also for seating the bullet. First off, you take the already shot cases, which will be empty, no powder, no bullets, and you run them through the deprimer, renecker, and resizer so everything's uniform and it gets rid of already with the spent primer. And then once you get all your cases that you're loading, whether it's one, two, three, 2 dozen, and you get a tool which like reams out the inside and outside edges of the neck of the casing, and it gets all the burrs off, so there's no chance for burrs to hinder how the bullet comes out of the case. Then you take and you get the tool to clean out the primer hole, which is at the bottom of the shell, and it's a little wire circle brush that you spin around in the primer hole, and it gets all of the powder residue and soot out of the hole, so you have a clean charge going in when the primer gets hit from the firing pin. After that, you take the shell holder and you put it in the tool that you put primers into the casing, and then you have to select the right size primer, whether it's a Magnum rifle primer, small rifle, large rifle primer, based on the casing, which it'll also tell you in the reloading manual. So once you do that, you have all the primers in. You seat the primers appropriately in the case to make it flush on the bottom so it doesn't stick out, so it gets hit appropriately by the firing pin. Once that's done, you go into your load data book and it will give you the desired range of powder and which powders are preferred and how much you should use. Once that's done, you decide whether you're going to start at the middle of the road, the top of the road, or the low end to start your loading of the shells. For instance, for a 30-06, you use a certain powder. You'd start at 46 to 48 grains, 46 being the minimum amount, 48 being the max. So if you start off in the middle, you start with 47 grains of powder, and you go to your powder dispenser once that's already calibrated, and you dispense the 47 grains of powder to match what the book says for the middle of the road. And then once it's dispensed, you put it in the shell. You do one shell at a time so you don't overcharge each powder in each load, and it could be dangerous. So once you get that powder charge in the casing that's already been primed, cleaned out, and everything, you take the bullet projectile and you place it in the press to put it and seat the bullet into the casing. You seat it, and then once it's seated in it, you take and you go over, before you put in your shell box, you go over the case, make sure there's no crack, no deformities, no bulging in the necks, no dents, no nothing, so the shell looks safe to the eye. And then you repeat the process until your shells are done and you have loaded the amount that you need. And then once you have the amount you need, if your rifle's not sighted in for that round, you go back to the range and it's time to sight in your rifle to your new round for your rifle. Thank you. Hopefully you learned something today.